Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Warrant Officer Cherie Thayers. We warmly welcome the family of Corporal George Thompson, who are watching the live stream of this ceremony. Corporal Thompson's story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place to help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Corporal George Thompson. George Thompson was born on the 28th of January 1892 in Liverpool, England. He was the younger of two sons born to Harry and Minnie Thompson. George's father, Harry, was the grandson of Robert Thompson Sr., who had established Robert Thompson Shipping Yard, later J.L. Thompson and Sons. 2 weeks after George's birth, Harry died of a self-inflicted gun wound after an attempted murder-suicide at the Feathers Hotel in Liverpool. After Harry's death, Minnie and her sons moved to Sunderland in Durham, where the family's shipyard was located. By the time George was 19, he was working as an apprentice of the sea at his grandfather's shipping yard in Sunderland. In early 1912, George, Nash and Minnie left England and moved to Australia, settling in Gunnedah in New South Wales. George moved to Brisbane to find work as a labourer, but later listed his occupation as a dental mechanic. In 1914, George met and married Margaret Graham, and the couple moved into a house on Warren Street in Brisbane. George enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 19th of May 1915 in Brisbane. At the time, Margaret was 3 months pregnant with their first child. George was allotted to the reinforcements of the 25th Infantry Battalion with the rank of corporal, and he began training at Enoggera Camp on the outskirts of Brisbane. Nash enlisted 3 weeks later at Liverpool Depot in Sydney, joining the Light Horse as a trooper. He would go on to rise to the rank of sergeant, surviving the war and returning to Australia in March 1919. After 3 months of training, Corporal George Thompson departed Sydney in HMAT Shropshire on the 20th of August 1915, bound for Egypt and then in Gallipoli Peninsula. He arrived on Gallipoli on the 12th of October 1915 and was taken on strength of the 25th Battalion. He spent the next 2 months manning the trenches on a quiet section of the peninsula before the battalion evacuated in mid-December as the Gallipoli campaign was abandoned. Margaret had given birth to the couple's only son, Neville, on the 4th of November 1915. George would not meet his son. Arriving in Alexandria in early January 1916, the 25th Battalion took up positions defending the Suez Canal in the city of Ismailia. On the 7th of February, George was admitted to the 7th Field Ambulance, complaining of a headache and pain in the back of his neck. Over the next 3 days, he was transferred through casualty clearing stations and the ambulance train to the No. 4 Auxiliary Hospital in Cairo. George was declared dangerously ill with cerebral spinal meningitis, suffering from headache, neck pain, fever, and sudden fits of vomiting. From the 11th of February, his condition worsened. At 8 p.m. on the 14th of February 1916, Corporal George Thompson succumbed to his illness, dying in his bed at the Auxiliary Hospital. He was 24 years old. George's remains were buried in the Cairo War Memorial Cemetery. At the end of the war, an Imperial War Graves Commission headstone was erected over his grave, bearing the inscription selected by his family, "His duty duly noted." His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Corporal George Thompson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning,
We will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.